Good evening. I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Supervisor, and I'd like to welcome all of you to the February 26, 2014 Brighton Town Board meeting. Whether you're here in the audience or watching us at home on TV or streaming on the internet, we welcome your participation tonight. I do need to advise everybody here that in case of an emergency, the Town Hall emergency alarm system will be activated. If you hear the alarm, please exit the auditorium immediately, either through the door to my right, then you turn right, go down the stairs and out the rear exit to the building, go away from the building, or you can leave through the double doors at the back of the room, go out the front doors of Town Hall, down the steps, and again, away from the building. In a minute, in a few minutes actually tonight, we'll be going to our open forum portion of the meeting. When we get there, and if you're at home and you'd like to call in to participate in the open forum, you can call 303-3060. That's 303-3060. An operator will take your call and take your comments or your questions to the board, and we'll try to address them. Obviously, anyone here, we welcome your comments or questions during the open forum, whether or not they relate to a matter on the agenda. If you're deaf or hearing impaired, we do have a TDD line for your use, and the number to call in to our TDD line during the open forum is 784-5205. Again, our TDD line, 784-5205, and we welcome everyone's participation in our meetings. We'll start with a pledge, and I'd like to ask Councilmember Warner to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, tonight we are going to begin with the presentation of the Brighton Police Department 2013 annual report, and I'll recognize Brighton Police Chief Mark Henderson for that purpose.
Thank you, Supervisor. You all should have in front of you a printed version of the 2013 annual report. For those that are watching from home, we have put a PDF version on the town website. You can access that, www.townofbrighton.org. Click on the police banner, and then right at the top is the PDF version of a little bit more in depth than what I'll present tonight. So I'll hit some highlights, and we're good. We include this picture in our annual report to show the men and women of the Brighton Police Department. We all don't look alike. We represent many different cultures, personalities. There's a total sworn staff of 40 police officers, and we're thankful to the town board and the town supervisor for approving that strength. We feel that that allows us to adequately serve the Brighton population. It hasn't really changed that much. I became chief in the summer of 2010. We looked at the overall operation. At that time, we had an authorized sworn staff of 41 police officers. It was my recommendation to the board and then Supervisor Frankel that we budget for 40 police officers, and that's what we have represented in the year 2013 and currently in 2014. That's what we look like on a schematic. For those that are familiar with paramilitary organizations, there's chains of commands, there's structures. We have first line supervision, second line supervision, command staff. I'd like to acknowledge both captains are here tonight. Captain Robert Klein is our staff captain, which you'll see represents and coordinates the criminal investigative division and the staff side of the house. And patrol operations, newly promoted last December, Captain David Cathaldi. You're going to look at that screen and you're going to say, something's wrong here. There seems to be a very large spike in calls for service in 2013, as opposed to 2012 and dating back to 2009. And let me put a disclaimer right up front right now. We changed the way we did business in 2013. We launched, on February 1st, 2013, we launched a new department initiative called a Community Engagement Initiative. Basically, that Community Engagement Initiative talked to our staff, it directed our staff. We wanted more interaction with community members. We wanted more interaction with residents and visitors to the town. We asked for three things. We asked for police officers to give us one directed foot patrol a day. And what a directed foot patrol does, it takes a police officer out of the vehicle and has a two-way exchange with the residents. We asked for one of those a day. We asked for a directed traffic special attention. What I have learned the past 4 years as your chief is that we seem to have a common thing amongst neighborhoods throughout the town that traffic and traffic concerns are problematic. And the best way that we can address those traffic concerns is through education and enforcement. So we ask our officers not only to do a directed foot patrol a day, we also ask them to do a special traffic enforcement per day. And one last thing that we asked them to do was to do a special attention. We have areas that are identified as being potentials for criminal activity, potential areas that are problematic. We hear quite a bit about Corbett's Glen and the nicety about the park. We also heard that a certain time of day, it seems to be a gathering spot, even though the park closes, young people will come into the park at night. We ask our staff to direct their enforcement efforts, random patrol efforts to the park. And this is what happened in 2013. You'll see that we broke down 2012 and compared that to 2013. We responded, response calls, 24,577. The significant number is the number on the left. 21,013 officer-initiated actions from our staff. We took a data capture approach. You'll hear in my concluding remarks that data and quantifying data and qualitative analysis, it's all going to help us to shape our policing services. So what we asked our officers to do is not only to do those tasks as part of the initiative, but to capture their officer-initiated activity. How do we quantify what a police officer does in an 8-hour period? We're going to look at burglary reports, we're going to look at the number of motor vehicle accidents, but what is it exactly a police officer does? What's the intangible during the day? Well, actually, we can quantify that. We have, each one of our patrol vehicles has a mobile data terminal that's connected to the Monroe County 911 system. Our officers captured their proactive approaches through a calls for service. And that's why you see the large increase in calls for service. So moving on from this point on, from 2013 on, not only are we going to capture, from a data standpoint, response calls, we're also going to capture and quantify officer-initiated activity. And I think it's that officer-initiated activity that has led to a 20% decrease in total criminal activity in the town of Brighton for calendar year 2013. I'd like to say that our efforts are different than our partners in the Rochester City Police Department or our partners in law enforcement at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office or some of the other suburban police agencies. We all have seemed to see a 20% reduction in the report of criminal activity. And we're trying to figure out why that is. We are seeing some alarming spikes in some property crimes. We're seeing some very concerning trends relative to drug abuse, specifically heroin and heroin overdoses. And we're waiting to see if that'll have a correlative effect on criminal behavior and criminal activity. Right now, we think that our proactive approaches are counterbalancing, and that's maybe why we're experiencing the 20% reduction. I don't have a definitive answer. I'm trying to look at, is it our approach? Is our engagement initiative? Or because other agencies are experiencing the same? It's something that's societal and based? I don't have the answer for that. And I can't take credit for it. Just we can continue to monitor it. NIBRS is a New York State system that captures any type of criminal activity. And I'm old enough, I've been on the job 29 years, to remember an FBI means of reporting called the Uniform Crime Report, UCR, which captured very specific narrow bands of criminal activity. The New York State-based system is tied into the federal system that collects UCR data, but it also gets a little bit more specific in the type of incidents, people involved in the incidents, suspects, arrestees. It allows us to use data a little bit more effectively. So much so that the state has coined a term DDACT, data-driven police services, data-driven traffic analysis, data-driven crime prevention. You're going to look and see that our clearance rate seems to be pretty high. We took 2 years ago, we took a look at how do we close out an investigation. You could close it out by the arrest of an individual, the arrest of a suspect. You could close it out by identifying a suspect, and for whatever reason, whether the district attorney's office or through a plea arrangement, no additional arrests would be made. You would close out a report in that regard. We would put a lot of investigative effort into criminal reports, not come up with a suspect, not come up with an individual responsible for the act, but our efforts, we would close it by investigation. And that has led to a 99% clearance rate. Our offenses, 21% decrease in 2013 from 2012. Our incidents, that's the second data capture in the New York State system, has a 20% decrease in reported offenses. And for those that are, I'm just giving the brief version right now. Our report, the annual report, has by incident identified in the location that the crimes are occurring. 3 years ago, we talked about a burglary problem and burglary trends throughout the town. And we were concerned, and we changed our policing approaches. We went on a pretty aggressive community-wide crime prevention campaign. The supervisor and I would attend neighborhood association meetings, and we would talk about facts that we were learning from reported burglaries and pass that information out to the community. One of the first things that was very effective in late 2012 was, if you see something, say something. And that see something, say something campaign led to the actual, it led to a resident seeing a crime, picking up the phone, providing information, and we were able to make an arrest shortly after a crime of burglary occurred, and we were able to tie that specific group of burglars, there were 3 of them, into 29 incidents in the town. Prior to that, in the summer of 2012, we had a career criminal that was paroled, came into our community, and we were able to tie him to in excess of 90 incidents of burglary. Those persons were in jail in 2013. We saw a positive downward trend in the report of burglaries. Still a number that's pretty high, still a number that we have to work on, but I see positives in that the actual number of burglaries is starting to decrease. This breaks down time of day. This helps us from a staffing and a resource management perspective to look at when should we have our police officers out there. You're going to see right off the bat, it seems to be midnight seems to be the high spike. And why would we have all these midnight crimes? There's a couple of factors into that high spike in a reported time of day. One is people get home a little late, and when they're coming home at that time, they're reporting to us the crime of burglary. We also, unfortunately, started to see some residential burglaries where people were home, and the perpetrator went into the home. It was right around the midnight time frame. So again, that was part of an aggressive citizen campaign, community campaign about talking about locking doors. Even though you're home, lock your door, engage your alarm system. Another positive downward trend were larceny incidents. 17% decrease from 2012. There was a time that I came and talked to the town board and I talked to the community about cars that were left unlocked, unsecured in driveways, and it seemed like individuals were going driveway to driveway, neighborhood to neighborhood, and entering unlocked vehicles and stealing cell phones, GPS units, computers that had been left in a car. Crimes of opportunity. Part of our community engagement initiative was to talk about factors learned. Locking cars, taking the valuables out of the cars, leads for less of a chance for criminal activity. And I think we have a correlative effect that we can draw upon on this particular slide that shows in 2013 we have a decrease, a noted decrease in larceny incidents within the town. Again, same type thing. Midnight, 1 a.m. seems to be the time when we have a majority of this. Again, from a staffing perspective, Captain Cathaldi is tasked with patrol operations. We'll look at our staffing efforts at the midnight hour. In a few minutes, I'm going to make him think about another time of day when we're going to have staffing efforts, and that's when we have our motor vehicle accidents and how many officers we would need on in that time of day. Surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, our number of individuals arrested has gone down. It peaked in 2011 at 778 individuals, down to 479 in 2013. Are there just not a lot of criminals out there? What we're doing is we're changing the way we're doing business. In 2011, MCC had a public safety department. In 2013, MCC's public safety department are now peace officers. They can make their own arrests. In the past, they used to turn the arrest over to the Brighton police for processing, and it would be counted as a Brighton police arrest. Today, when an MCC public safety officer makes an arrest, it's counted by the state as an MCC public safety arrest. I think that's why we have a decrease in the number of individuals arrested. U of R, same type of a format. U of R has peace officer status now, whereas before they were non-sworn public safety officers who would turn over arrests to us. So that number right there, I think, is indicative of arrests that we make from the Brighton police perspective. Okay, this tells us who it is we're arresting. You know, on the left end of the spectrum, we have 17 and under. That tells us we can put some efforts into diversion programs. We can look at alternatives to jail. We can look at a number of factors that focus on the younger part of our individuals that we arrest. And then the 25 to 35 accounts for the other block of arrests that we make. Domestic violence. Domestic violence can touch any community in any state in our country. We're not immune to domestic violence. We take a very progressive and proactive approach to domestic violence incidents. We do not just try to mediate and hope that a problem will go away. We take furtive action. We're a pro-arrest agency. We are connected with the state. All of our reports go to a collection point, a depository, and it's analyzed. Our activity is analyzed by the state. What I have in the bullet form is that's what constitutes a family. It's a pretty broad, diverse definition of what a domestic relationship is. Again, I mentioned a 29-year experience point. 29 years ago, that was not the definition of a domestic incident. Today, that's what defines a domestic incident. This is, you'll see this reported on the New York State Department of Criminal Justice Services web page. That's our incidents. You can see we had a 16% decrease from 2012. Of the 558 calls, where are we, JP? 469 calls in 2013. We had 59 that resulted in arrests. And that pie chart tells you what the type of offenses were. And again, from a management perspective, we can work with our partners in probation. We can work with our partners in alternatives for battered women to try to look at the root causes to see if we can't prevent these incidents of domestic violence. Again, type of day. Now you look at 3, 4, 5 o'clock up to 8 o'clock in the afternoon as being high peak time for domestic violence calls. Again, from a resource management perspective, this is when we have our most staff on. Because domestic violence calls, no matter what community you're in, can lead to violence to the officers that respond. These are not single officer approaches. These are multiple officer approaches. Officer safety in mind, we have to have 2 officers that go on every one of those domestic violence calls. I hear quite frequently when we're doing community outreach, when we come to town board meetings, that not only do we have in our neighborhoods vehicles that are speeding, vehicles that are are going way too fast that could cause accidents in our neighborhoods. We also see that we do have a number of accidents. And we've identified areas, specific areas in town that are prone or problematic. The Monroe Avenue corridor is one. West Henrietta Road corridor is another. East Henrietta Road. Thanks to the action that the Department of Transportation has taken down on South Winton Road, I no longer have to say that South Winton Road at 590 is a problem area. Our data analysis for that particular part of town shows a greater than 50% decrease in the number of reported motor vehicle accidents, and that's due to design and environmental factors. There was a lot of research that went into this divergent diamond. I've seen overwhelming positive support. I also read, pretty interestingly, I think it was last week in a letter to the editor, there was somebody that didn't particularly care for the design. I'd be happy to sit down with that person and show the data prior, the 3 years prior to the diverging diamond, and the data that we're showing in right now. In the annual report, I note that we had 0 fatal motor vehicle accidents in the town last year, and that's a significant number. 2 years ago, we had a fatal accident at the South Winton Road 590 overpass area, the area of the divergent diamond. We didn't have an incident like that last year in that location. Again, motor vehicle accidents continue to be on our radar, so to speak. We look at accident causality factors. We try to address those accident causality factors. Some indicate speeding, some indicate driver inattention, texting. Some indicate that, like the DOT is looking at the Monroe Avenue corridor right now. Maybe it requires an environmental or a physical design change, and I know there's a project in the work to do just that. So we'll continue to monitor our motor vehicle accidents and look for the causes of those accidents. That's one of the things that we are tasked with from a law enforcement perspective, is not only to monitor the motor vehicle accidents, we have to arrive at a determination of causality. And we do that through investigation. And we have some tools, the more serious motor vehicle accidents, we can use a GPS-based system that basically uses a series of satellites to help us reconstruct that accident, right down to speed and the number of factors involved in the motor vehicle crash. Not surprisingly, mid to late afternoon. We're a great community. We're also a pass-through community. We have a number of roadways, local roadways, county roadways. We have expressways. We get a lot of traffic volume. And that's reflective as to when these accidents are occurring. It's usually after work, afternoon hours. So a year ago, I reported to you that our traffic ticket activity was down significantly. Part of our community engagement initiative was not only to get out of a police car and interact with the community, it was also meant to address problems in the town. And the problems that we address are the speeding vehicles in the neighborhood. We had an 11% increase in the number of traffic tickets that were issued in 2013 as opposed to 2012. Okay? That's a modest increase. Our goal is to increase that even more. And it's important to note that we do not get fine money for the police department or for the town. There is no monetary value for us to write traffic tickets. The value that we do when we write traffic tickets is we impact driver behavior. We try to get drivers to operate within the confines of the law in our community, in our neighborhoods. This is a problem. I'm not going to say anything other than this is a problem. We had a 38% decrease in the number of DWI arrests. Why is that? Is it our focus is not there? Are our enforcement efforts not there? We're trying to find out what this is. What I have heard is there was a period of time where there were a number of establishments in the town that served alcoholic beverage that led to a higher number of DWI incidents. And right now we currently don't have them. That's what I'm being told. We're looking, part of our goal for this year is to look at this number right here and try to find out, do we really not have intoxicated drivers driving through our community? Or are our enforcement efforts lacking? So our goal, Captain Cathaldi has been tasked with coming up with a plan, a strategy to address this. Maybe we do have less drivers driving through the town that are not intoxicated. We'd like to hope that that's the case through the education aspect. We will do sobriety checkpoints. We receive funding from Monroe County Stop DWI program to put on additional patrols. What we have found to be effective is we do checkpoints. It's a constitutionally accepted practice where we interact with drivers. It's a short-term exchange, and we can identify intoxicated drivers and take enforcement action in that regard. We will also put out additional patrols, overtime patrols, to try to identify the intoxicated driver. This is a problem for the Brighton Police Department. We respond to a number of alarms. We've got these broken down into robbery, burglary, and fire alarms. And when I talk to my friends in the media, I try to differentiate, let them know the difference between a robbery and a burglary is pretty simple. A robbery is when somebody confronts somebody person to person and attempts to steal something. A robbery alarm are typically at commercial establishments like banks and stores. That's a robbery alarm. A burglar alarm protects our home. It protects our businesses when we're not there. And we find that we have, in 2013, we had 2,645 alarm activations that required alarm response from police officers. Take a look at how many were determined to be defective. 91%. Maybe what we can do here is we can work with the alarm vendor to educate their customer about their alarm system, because when the alarm is activated, it is not an alarm company customer situation. It's not an issue there. It becomes a police issue. It becomes a police response issue. We will go to alarms. We will check homes. Sometimes we find homes that are unsecured. We will make sure that there is nobody inside your residence if your burglar alarm goes off and we find an unsecured door. We will also go, and there are those rare incidents where our alarms are activated and the perpetrators are still on site, and we will take the enforcement action and arrest the individuals in the commission of a crime. But as this statistic shows, the majority of them are defective alarms that cause us to respond to alarms. We do not charge for false alarms. It's a normal part of doing business. We have staff on. I know some agencies and some first response agencies charge or allow so many false alarms and then get into a charging scheme, funding mechanism. We don't do that. It's part of our normal patrol response. I put this up there for Louise. It's not a mailbox. That is a pharmaceutical take-back collection point that we are operating at the Brighton Police Department. We were able to purchase it using seized assets, seized funds that we came to the police department as part of a narcotics investigation stream. We do a number of community outreach programs. We participate in the federal DEA take-back initiative 2 times a year. We would appreciate if they'd tell us a little bit more in advance when that is so that we could give community advance. Investigator Karch does some community outreach. He'll go to our senior living centers and collect unwanted, outdated drugs. Community members will come into the police department and they can put their unwanted pharmaceuticals into this box, and then we collect all that. And in 2013, we collected 4,279 pounds of unwanted pharmaceutical waste, which we then brought to an incinerator in Niagara Falls. It did not go in a landfill, and it is not in the waterways, and we'll continue to provide this service. This is a great community service. And thanks to Louise and your efforts that first started the pharmaceutical take-back. That's the next generation or next gen of pharmaceutical take-back. Our goals for 2014 are pretty simple. We're going to continue and build upon our community engagement initiative. We did some community building training the first part of January for all the members of the Brighton Police Department, myself and the command staff as well. We want quality interactions between the members of the Brighton Police Department and whomever it is we're interacting with. If we're stopping a driver for driving too fast in a residential area, our interaction is going to be a quality interaction. We are going to take the enforcement steps necessary, but we are going to do so with dignity and respect. That's what this is all about. We are going to continue our traffic enforcement areas and areas that have been identified as problematic. Captain Cathaldi coordinates complaints. We look at our motor vehicle accident data. We will use a data-driven approach to the delivery of police services in 2014. And for those that are home and they want to contact me directly, this is my office phone, 784-5101. My email address, I have a direct link to the email on the website. I'll be happy to listen to your concerns. I'll be happy to listen to your suggestions on how we can change or better provide police services in the town of Brighton. I'd like to acknowledge J.P. O'Brien. J.P. is an administrative analyst for the police department. He was tasked with collecting a lot of this data and putting it in a format so that we were able to present it to you. It is on the website, and again, I'd be happy to take any questions, or if people at home have questions, you can call me in my office. I'll be in first thing tomorrow morning. That's all I have. The next pharmaceutical is the 26th of April. See, that was a test and I failed. My calendar's over here. Thanks.
Thank you for that presentation, Mark, and thanks as well to Captain Klein, Captain Cathaldi, and to you, JP, for putting the report together. I'm certainly heartened and encouraged to see some of those numbers. I think you get a sense of the commitment that Chief Henderson has to being accessible and open to the community. The mere fact that he puts his number up on that presentation makes the offer to the, I saw that letter as well, Mark, on the diverging diamond, and I share, and most of the feedback I've received has not only, obviously the data is there, but I think most people have found that location to be an improvement. So, but what really excites me more than anything else is the commitment that the entire Brighton Police Department, and clearly from the top, as you heard, the Community Engagement Initiative, which began on February 1st, 2013, is an important part of the dynamic of the department, and I credit your leadership with that. It's an important program. We see the results every time we're out in the neighborhood, and I think we see the results in those statistics. And we obviously know of at least the one event, and surely there are others. Now, with the indulgence of the board, I'm going to ask that we just add a little something on here. All of us, all five of us at the board, were at a luncheon today put on by the Center for Dispute Settlement, at which Mark received an award for, well, it was a peacemaker award in law enforcement. And it was a privilege for all of us to be there and see that. And the board, we knew, Mark, you wouldn't be, if we had asked you about this, you would have said, no, don't do it.
It was just a lunch.
It was just a lunch. Well, it was a very nice lunch, and it's the kind of recognition that makes me proud to be the leader of this great community. And so the members of the town board have each signed this proclamation that I would like to read, because it is a recognition of your service. Whereas, under the leadership of Police Chief Mark Henderson, the Brighton Police Department has put into place a community engagement initiative under which the department is committed to a policy of interaction between members of the department and members of the community that has assisted in providing police services more effectively while strengthening the bonds between the community and the men and women who protect us. Whereas Chief Henderson has been committed to community policing throughout his career and has carried this commitment to his leadership of the Brighton Police Department, as well as to other law enforcement agencies through his service as a leader of the Monroe County Chiefs of Police and the Monroe County Law Enforcement Council. Whereas the Center for Dispute Settlement has recognized Chief Mark Henderson with its Peacemaker Award in Law Enforcement at its annual awards luncheon. in recognition of the impact of his commitment to policing in the spirit of service and his leadership in making the Brighton Police Department's Community Engagement Initiative a model that demonstrates the effectiveness of working directly with members of the community in providing police service, as shown by his willingness to work with individuals and organizations throughout Brighton and his support of restorative justice where appropriate. Now, therefore, the Brighton Town Board does hereby commend the recognition given to Brighton Police Chief Mark Henderson by the Center for Dispute Settlement at its awards luncheon this 26th day of February 2014, and on behalf of the entire Brighton community, extends its appreciation to Chief Henderson for his philosophy of community engagement in police service that recognizes the diverse character of Brighton and commands respect from law enforcement agencies throughout our community. This proclamation is dated today's date, and it's signed by myself and by all the members of the Brighton Town Board. That's the Mark Henderson we've all come to know and love. It was just a luncheon, he said.
Bill, I have to apologize because it was going to be a short meeting. I went over a little bit long on my presentation, and I thank you for this great proclamation.
Thank you.
You can't talk now. That's good.
We're now going to go into the open forum portion of the meeting. As I mentioned before, during the open forum, members of the audience may address the board about any matter, whether or not it's on the agenda this evening. I will recognize members of the audience that wish to speak, and when you're recognized, please come to the podium. If you would, please state your name and address. Comments should be directed to the board and not to members of the audience. Please be courteous, as you always are, and please try to keep your comments as concise as possible. With that, we'll begin the open forum portion of the meeting. Is there anyone here that would like to address the town board in open forum tonight? Bob, come on up.
My name is Bob Heyer. I live at 169 Chelmsford Road, and I'm here to address you again about the condition of Whitten Road between Monroe Avenue and the city line. It's a travesty. I appeal to you to get our county legislator to put a lot of pressure on the county, because I've watched cars until the county road crew came and fixed a pothole. There was a pothole that was a good 1.5 feet deep. Saw a guy get a flat tire there on Saturday. Numerous hubcaps have been littering the lawns there. And the sewer department guys told me they can't even camera the storm sewer line because they have so many cave-ins. So that whole roadway is falling apart, and until it gets dug up and fixed, it's only going to get worse. And considering we're having our 200th anniversary, and that road comes right through the center of our town, it's horrible. It's in terrible shape. So I implore you to get some kind of pressure on the county to put that at the top of their bucket. So thank you.
Thank you, Bob. I agree with you. We have spoken with our legislatures. Obviously, that the county's capital improvement budget is where that project would reside, and we will continue to send the message that it is important. Part of the problem, of course, right now has been with a very severe winter season that has exacerbated our usual pothole problem. And Tim, maybe you can address where you're at as a department in between salt and plow runs to begin to address the pothole situation on our streets.
I'd be happy to, Bill. I don't want to steal Councilman Vogel's thunder. Jim had come up to me earlier today and said he was going to bring this up under the Public Works topic.
But I want to have it front and center right at the start, because
that's okay.
Right.
It is a challenge, to say the least. As everybody has seen in the paper the last few weeks about the amount of salt that has been used, the lack of availability of some salt to non-municipalities. The private entities that have been furnished salt are not a high priority, and probably rightfully so. That not that everyone wouldn't like to have a little salt, but keeping the public thoroughfares open is basically where we need to have our focus. We've been doing pretty well because we've been anticipating. We have a great crew across the street. Bob's part of that crew, and keeping the roads clear and being salted. But the cold weather and then your thaws, like last week where it was mild for a little bit, that's when it freezes and thaws. We get many calls that come into the town hall, into the operations center for potholes. And potholes fall into different categories depending on which road they're on, which is sort of another subset of the discussion that we're going to have. We have been out, I think, Bob, you've been out as of this week and late last week, doing some potholes as part of the crew. And come on up and we can tag team here.
Yeah, we use what they call coal patch, which is a very sticky, tarry substance. And what we do is we sweep the holes out to get the water out of them, put the coal patch down, and we wheel roll it with the truck on town roads.
Right.
And town roads are basically our subdivisions, along with the only main thoroughfares we have are like Landing Road, Allen's Creek Road, which we share with Pittsford.
Right.
And that's pretty much it for the main. So the people, I know, call in like Witten Road, where I talked about, and Clover Street in Brighton.
Right.
They're county roads, okay? And so people have to call the county, Edgewood Avenue, things like that. They have to call the county highway. And then East Avenue, Monroe Avenue, East and West Henrietta Road, Blossom Road, and Penfield Road, at least the front portion of Penfield Road's the state.
State or county, right, for all
And
of
then
those.
the rest of it's the county. But they have to call those organizations, and we are probably more receptive to getting out to a town pothole versus the state or the county. You've got the whole county, so you get into a priority on which is the worst. I mean, I've seen some pretty good craters on East Avenue, and we can't really, you don't want us doing it because, number one, it's not our road. So if we do anything to help predicate the situation, like putting a barricade up, if it gets hit, then we're liable. It's really their responsibility to maintain their roadway and whatnot. Plus, you have the water authorities out, and they're digging all over the place, so you have a lot of water cuts, and they sink in with the road. And then we also have heaves in the road, where you get a bubble in the road, you can't patch it. It's just the frost pushing the gravel up and down. So, but yeah, it's a problem. I mean, and the thing is what happens is we'll patch these holes, and we have some very popular places on town roads, on all the cut-through streets that get a lot of traffic. And what'll happen is we'll put the patch in, it'll get run, and then we'll get snow, thaw, and then that pops that patch right out. And you have to go back and repatch the same hole. You can see along the side of the road where the former material is kind of lined up in little pieces. So, but it's a problem. And in the weather, it's been extremely cold this year, and it's not going to get any better for a couple of weeks.
No, it's not.
So that's a problem though, because you get those little thaws, and that pops that stuff right out.
Right. But being so cold, too, doesn't give us an opportunity to get out there and put the cold patch material in effectively, because you can't get the snow and, as Bob said, the moisture out of the hole. And it is formulated to be put in at colder temperatures, so it's more pliable. But once the temperatures warm up, then it doesn't have really any structural integrity to remain in the hole. Highland Avenue and Lockdeville are another couple major town roads that we have to be out on. So we've been out doing our potholes as best as we can. We get an enormous amount of calls, erroneous calls, and I'm not even referring to what Bob says as state or county roads, but people think they are in the town of Brighton, and they're not. And what we do, and I will just say this is probably a little bit of an exception to how Bob's presented it, but if people call the town we will pass that information on as well. We're not going to just tell the person that they need to contact the appropriate authorities to, to get this issue remedied. The first important thing is if you know what community you're in, that's a start. The second point is that if you do call, we have at 784-5280 is the main number over at the Operations Center. We'll take that information. We can send it to the city, to the county, to the state, whoever we need to. Same thing if you call the town hall, 784-5250, or into the Department of Public Works. We will be happy to do the same thing. There are some other numbers, though, that we have. Actually, if you're in New York State, you can call 1-800-POTHOLE. That will go into a state system. They will then take that information and disperse it to the appropriate areas in the state. If you're actually in the city, you can call 311. If you're not, but you need to report a pothole in the city, it's 428-5990. And in the county, 753-7700. But again, most people traveling on roads do not know whose jurisdiction they are. So that's just nice if you do. If not, call the town. We'll pass that information on, and we'd be happy to do that. It has been a tough winter. It's been an extremely tough winter. I think people have seen that. The firsthand testament that Bob has given, that is replicated by communications we get, emails or telephone calls with people that have hit potholes and have lost tires, rims, and then they're not happy in the first place, and then they want reimbursement. And that's not necessarily an obligation of the town nor the other agencies because of how the state laws are written. So, it never hurts to ask, but I wouldn't guarantee that people are going to get reimbursed when they have damage to their car.
One last thing. When we're looking at potholes, we're looking at the deep ones. There's a lot of things where some of the oil and stone material is ripped up. It's only about a ½ inch. We can't put material in there because it'll be dragged right out by the traffic. So, people might say their street looks bad, but unless it's 4 or 5 inches deep, it's not going to be effective to put that material in there, and they'll deal with that in the spring and summer with a patch crew.
Right, and really the message to be passed along, it sort of chimes in with Mark's presentation here and his recognition, and he got things that we try to preach all the time, is that you need to drive according to conditions. You need to drive slowly. You need to drive courteous. You need to be aware of your surroundings. Pedestrians, particularly with cars, I've seen people out walking in the road versus the sidewalks. Everybody just needs to be aware of their surroundings and be courteous of each other. We'll get a lot further ahead than if we pretend that it's, 75 degrees and you can drive 70 miles an hour down Elmwood Avenue like most people like to do during the summertime. So, but we've been out, Bill, and it's been a hot topic, and again, not for probably 3 weeks are we looking for any real moderation according to the forecast.
Well, thank you, Tim. Thank you, Bob, for coming in. Thank you for the work that you and all of the men and women down the street at the Highway Department put in for us. But I do recognize that we talk about the potholes, and it is seasonally exacerbated. Winton Road between the 12 Corners and the city line is a problem. We will reiterate that to our county legislators, to the county executive, and we'll work hard to get work done in that stretch. So.
And if I could just add my voice to Bob's, and thank you, Bob, for bringing this up, because I found myself on Saturday out changing my wife's flat tire after she hit a crater on Winton Road between 12 Corners and the city line. So I had that. It was freezing out, too. And she was on her way to her hair appointment and almost made her late, so I almost got in big trouble there. She made it on time.
Do a speed analysis to let you know how fast, or?
No, she said there was a big moving truck in front of her, and she said she just didn't see it, and it just popped up. And I mean, there's just some big craters there.
And that is a reminder, and I mentioned it in my Brighton Pittsford Post column this past week, and Tim just did again. Please drive to the conditions. I know we're I hope nobody's going 70 on Elmwood Avenue at any time of year, but we are often programmed. We see 35 and we go 40 maybe. Under weather conditions, whether it's actually snowing or whether it simply is because of some potholes, or maybe because of parked cars or pedestrian traffic or the like. Please drive to the conditions. And the fact that a street says it's 35 miles an hour, maybe the safe speed is 25 miles an hour. So, do drive accordingly. And a reminder again, and hopefully we won't get too much more snow. It seems like a very tough winter so far. Actually, looking in the paper this morning, we're only a few inches of snow above normal, but 80 inches is a lot of snow any way you cut it. Whether you have a plow company plow your driveway or whether you do it yourself, remember, please, those snow piles need to stay on your property. Don't drag them across the street. You can't put snow on your neighbor's lawn. And those mounds of snow that inevitably come across the street that can themselves become traffic hazards. Please be careful when there are snow plows. Kids are hard to see. Yes, sometimes they walk in the street. Sidewalks, we do plow them. Our sidewalk snow removal districts are a great way to get your sidewalks plowed. If you're not in a sidewalk snow removal district yet, I encourage you to call the Public Works Department. We can tell you about how you can get in. And I assure you that the cost of those districts is much less than hiring a young man like the one I see out here in the audience tonight to shovel your walk for a season. Because under town law, as it is in most communities, we all have an obligation. If we have front sidewalks, we all have an obligation to clear them. And the easiest way to clear them is using a snow removal district. Bob?
Yeah, and also, thing on speed on cars, when we plow main roads, we plow with 2 trucks. The public needs to understand that we don't go over 25. The roads are just as slippery for us, so we need to maintain the control of that plow and all that iron hanging off those plows. But we go 25, and we have people continually trying to get in between the 2 trucks. And it's because they're in a hurry. And nothing good will come out of that, okay? Because if they get ahead of the back truck, the lead trucks will be pouring snow right on their windshields and stuff. So the public needs to, give us a break. And I will say that Chief Henderson's police officer at night are doing a pretty good job because we're noticing less parked cars, probably because the consistent violators are getting tickets. It makes a big difference when we don't have parked cars in neighborhoods like Roselawn and Bel Air, where we have a limited amount of space to put snow, and then what happens is they park their car out, then they go to work. Well, all that snow we piled up behind that car ends up in their driveway. Then they call us complaining that their driveway got plowed up. Well, there's a reason. So if you leave your car in the street, your driveway's going to get filled up eventually, because we have to pick up the plow, go around the car, and put the plow back down. Most streets aren't wide enough to drive around them. So I would just say if the public can give us a break, it would be appreciated. Our guys do a great job keeping the roadways clear. My wife tells me that when she hits Brighton, it's like a different environment than it is in the other towns that she drives through. And also, I wanted to say that Tim and Anderson and Tim Keefe do a great job on our salt forecast, because there's a lot of towns that are 150%, and our salt barn is full. So they do a great job forecasting that.
I can only stress again what Bob just said about giving those plow drivers room. One of the great experiences of my first year in office was that first snowstorm ride-along. And the many things I learned that night, more than anything else, you appreciate. You may think you're far enough away from that plow. You're probably not. Please, don't pass them. Don't try to sneak around them. And just generally keep your distance, because they are doing a hard job. and they need all the help we can give them. So again, thanks very much, Bob, for coming in and giving us an important reminder. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during the open forum this evening? If not, then we will proceed to the approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of correspondence that I will read when we get there? I'd like to add to communications a letter from former Brighton supervisor Dick Wiles that's dated February 6, 2014. And also a brief executive session at the end of the meeting to discuss the appointment of a particular person.
So moved, Bill.
Second?
Discussion?
Actually, Supervisor, I'd actually also note the proclamation for Chief Henderson on that edition as well.
Absolutely. We'll add that as well. Thanks. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Motion to approve and file the town board meeting minutes for the January 22nd, 2014 town board meeting. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. We have no public hearings tonight. Bids. Jim?
The bid that we have here is seeking approval to solicit for bids to provide materials associated with the Monroe Avenue GIGP project. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Tim, you want to just real briefly talk about this?
Sure, Bill. This came before the Finance Committee a few meetings ago, and we thought this would be a good way to approach the project so that we do not have any delays as we are moving through the construction in order to procure materials or things that are needed for the green infrastructure project on Monroe Avenue that we will be starting here later this year. We do have an open house next Monday, March 3rd, and I believe it is from 4 to 7. And the public is certainly welcome to come. I think you're going to be pretty impressed by what you may see, how this has morphed from our meeting last fall, our public information and open house that we had, to what we're planning on doing. I think if you take the time to come in, you're going to be pretty impressed to see what is being proposed out there, because this certainly can have a profound effect on the avenue.
Thanks, Tim. And yeah, I was very excited when I first saw the concepts that we're going to be sharing with the public on March 3rd, on Monday afternoon. It is from 4 to 7. That doesn't mean you have to stay from 4 to 7. It doesn't mean you have to come at 4. We'll have, again, an open house type format. We'll have different parts of the street. You may live in a neighborhood that comes off one of the side streets and be interested in that particular area. You may be a business owner or a property owner somewhere along the avenue and are interested to see what we're using as concepts for your part of the street, and you can come to that part of the room where we're focusing on that area. So we will have town staff there, we will have staff from our consultants, and we will have volunteers who I can't thank enough from our community task force that's working with us on this project. So yes, again, that's Monday, March 3rd, 4 to 7. And we're going to be using a variety of approaches on these materials. Much of the material that we'll be using for the Monroe Avenue project we'll be able to purchase from state or county contracts. But this will authorize us to procurement, as Tim said, in as expeditious a way as we can for all the material that we can't get under existing state or county, or that we decide that isn't the best way to proceed. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that?
Just want to say quick, I saw smiling Mike Guyon out on the streets in this cold weather today, working hard. So kudos to Tim, but he's still out there cooking more data for this project.
That's a great point. I'm glad you reminded me of that, Dan. Mike and Ramsey were out this afternoon knocking on business doors, talking to business owners. They did that prior to the November open house, and we got a good response from our business owners. They were out today. I don't know whether they finished the whole stretch of the avenue, but they're planning on going out again tomorrow to get to any businesses they couldn't get to today. Folks really have appreciated that we're taking the time to get out talking one-on-one with owners to let them know what's going on. That's the spirit of communication that we're going to try to foster throughout this project. This will be about a 2-year project. We will be progressing down Monroe Avenue in different, it won't be linear, we'll be focusing on different parts of the avenue. So the whole avenue isn't going to be torn up, and primarily the work is going to be done outside of the actual pavement area in the sidewalk and right-of-way area. But still, it is going to cause some dislocation. And we want all of the businesses, all of the neighborhoods to know that we're going to be talking. We're going to have updates on our website, on our Facebook page relating to this project. We'll be letting people know who they can contact, giving schedules. So our goal really is not just to do a great project, but to talk to you, to communicate with the community at large as we go along so that people know what's coming, know what to expect and when. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Anything further? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Can I have a motion to receive and file the communications, including the communication from Supervisor Wiles?
So moved.
Second. And just want to note that the communication from the American Red Cross stated that that they're thanking us for our blood drive on February 11th, and they said that 25 people donated blood. All of them were not first-time donors. That it helped 75 patients, and thank you for helping to save lives.
They came close to their goal, but not
Right.
quite. Four
They-
more people, and they would have been able to meet their goal. The Red Cross does blood drives here at Town Hall on a regular basis, several times a year, and obviously at other locations in town, the fire department, for example. First-time donors, if you've never done it before, it really is pretty easy. They'll give you a little treat. They might give you a little coupon or something too. It's the cheapest gift you can give. It is a gift of time. It's a gift of your help, and it really means a lot. So thanks for that. I do want to read Supervisor Wiles' letter. I just got it, but it's very much in the spirit of the prior letter that he sent to us when he sent his regrets that he was not going to be able to attend the bicentennial proclamation signing. Earlier, Supervisor Wiles is, let's just say he's enjoying warmer weather than we are. But he, like everybody, whether they were here or not that night, we sent a DVD of the proclamation ceremony where all of the elected officials signed the proclamation, and Supervisor Wiles sent me the following. Dear Supervisor Mealy, thank you for sending a tape of the Brighton Town Board meeting held January 8, 2014. Audrey and I enjoyed it very much. You had a good turnout of old and new times in Brighton history. I hope 2014 brings good weather to you as you celebrate our outdoor activities in the summer and fall. Brighton residents deserve the best and should turn out for the 200-year celebration. The very best to you, sincerely, Dick Wiles. Thank you, Supervisor. We understand why you couldn't be here, but we really appreciate your participation in the way that you have. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the communications? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Committee reports. Louise, Parks and Recreation.
The Parks and Recreation Committee met this last Monday, and I have not received the minutes yet. All I can say is that there was an extensive discussion on fencing for the community garden, and this is an ongoing discussion. Next time I will give you a more detailed discussion of, or I'll tell you more about what happened there. The next meeting is March 24th. That's the last Monday of March at Brookside, and the public is welcome.
You want to announce the Arts and Crafts show and the garage sale?
Oh, yes, I am so sorry. What did I just do with it? Just a second. The rec department, I was looking at it for so long. Oh, here it is, okay. There's going to be a sponsored arts and crafts sale and an indoor garage sale being held at Brookside. On February 28th will be the arts and crafts sale, explore homemade arts and crafts items in this exclusive two-day extravaganza. And hope to see you there. Admission is free, open to the public. Please bring a non-perishable food item for the Brighton food cupboard. The indoor garage sale will be
Actually, they're both days.
They're both days.
Running concurrently.
Okay.
One in one gym, one in the other.
Okay, this is Friday, February 28th, from 6 to 9 p.m., and Saturday, March 1st, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Brookside. If you have any questions, you can call the rec department at 784-5260. Do you want to post this?
Thanks, Louise. It's a fun
Okay.
day. A lot of stuff there. Chris, Finance.
Bill, the Finance Committee met February 19th, and all the matters on tonight's agenda dealing with finance were discussed at that meeting. I won't go over them again. The one additional item we did talk about was our contract for background checks and looking at how best we continue that program. The next meeting is Tuesday, March 4, and at 3:30 in the stage conference room behind us, and the public is always very, very welcome to attend.
Thanks very much. Jason?
Yes,
Public Safety?
The Public Safety Committee has not met since our last town board meeting. Our next regularly scheduled meeting will be held on Tuesday, March 11th. We meet at 8 a.m., and I believe in March we'll be meeting here in the main auditorium. Normally we're in the lower level conference room, but for the month of March we will be here in the main auditorium. 8 a.m. The public is invited to attend.
All of these committee meetings, we always mention it, but it's really important to remind everybody. The committee meetings are all open to the public, and they're really an opportunity that the public has to speak. You know, typically the agendas are shorter. You can spend a little more time on a given item that they're limited to, you know, that subject area. So they're good meetings to present an issue and really give everybody an opportunity to dig their teeth into it. And as Jim's committee does a lot, Public Works.
Public Works, we have not met since the last committee meeting, but our next meeting is going to be this coming Monday, March 3rd, at 9 a.m. in the lower level community meeting room. And again, as Bill has said, and my colleagues, all of these meetings are open to the public, and most welcome to come and sit in. The only other thing I'd add on the plowing and the condition of the roads is people, I think, need to be reminded of the perspective, give a perspective as the challenge that we have here in our highway department, not just snow plowing, but the number of our major roads that are really state and county roads. And I think we just ought to go quickly in 1 minute or less, starting at the north end. Blossom Road is what?
Blossom and Browncroft are both state highways, Jim.
Yeah. And then you swing around to East Avenue and you've got another.
East Avenue State. If you want to call it, it could be extension of Elmwood Avenue, Linden Avenue, 441, that's state, as it goes east into Penfield. Elmwood Avenue is county. Clover Street up to East Avenue and down to Monroe Avenue is county. But north of the railroad tracks, on the other side, Clover Street is the towns. So then as you're moving through town, Highland Avenue varies between the city and the town. That's probably the most confusing one that we have. And then Winton Road is county. Brighton Henrietta Town Line Road is county. East and West Henrietta roads are state. Crittenden Road is county. East River Road is county for the most part. and Westfall Road is county. And I believe that may cover all the main streets in town.
And Westfall, turns into Allen's Creek.
Allen's Creek. And between Monroe and Clover, it is county, but beyond that, it is towns of Brighton and Pittsford. So figure that one out.
Yeah. So the challenge here is for our highway department, which does a masterful job of dealing with all of this.
Yeah.
And the maintenance, the plowing, we do under contract for all these state and county roads. But beyond that is the repair that we have to go through, and recognizing some of these potholes we've encountered because of the
Right.
severe weather we've had.
Not an easy task to manage, Jim, under any circumstances. So we do certainly appreciate the public's, patience and indulgence as we do this. And again, if something comes up, you can call the town. We'll make sure it gets to the right entity.
Good. That's it, Bill.
Thank you both. Okay. We have no old business, new business. Chris, reading and approval of claims.
Bill, I've reviewed claims totaling $938,455.67 for payment. They all appear to be in order. Those of some significance, I suppose, are the rock salt bill of some $46,000. So you've been hard at work on that, Tim. Also, a couple of items of note are the payment on our park acquisition bonds. That was about $260,000 as well. And we spent $85 for a musical Valentine presented to our seniors as one of the recreation programs with Becky. And I find all the claims to be in order, and I move that they be approved for payment.
Second?
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio? Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jason?
Next matter is for the approval to accept a donation in the amount of $50 from Mr. Roy T. Bruno to the Brighton Police Department. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Discussion? Thank you, Mr. Bruno. As we always say, and we have another one in just a moment, we do appreciate, but we never ask for your donations, but the generosity of the community in support of our police department is appreciated. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. And Jason, another one.
Yes, the next matter is for the approval to accept a donation in the amount of $100 from the Grosvenor East Townhouse Condo Association to the Brighton Police Department. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Supervisor, what we will do with these donations is put it into a fund that will support a community event commemorating the bicentennial and an open house. We received a pretty significant check from Tops Market for that endeavor, and these will go towards that as well. And we anticipate a pretty big event, and we'll work with Ray Tierney on that.
Great. Thank you very much. Further discussion, if any? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Chris?
The next item, Bill, was discussed at the Finance Committee. We seek authorization for the supervisors to execute a one-year agreement with Northeast Association Management, INC, to provide tail claim administrative services of the town's pre-2010 workers' compensation claims. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney for the town.
Second.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jim?
Next item is to authorize disposal of particular items declared as surplus in the Highway Department, with approval where applicable to be used for trade-in or sold through the public auction. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
And we do have two of these items that will be sold at auction and one that's going to be traded in, a welder. So, any discussion?
These were discussed at length at Finance, Bill. They seem to be in order.
Good. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember,
Louise, I'm sorry, did you?
I was going to say, I'm in favor of it, but you need some no votes, don't you?
Not on this. This is a good thing.
Okay.
Councilmember Vogel,
Aye.
Councilmember Novros.
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Louise?
The next matter is to authorize the supervisor to execute an intermunicipal agreement with Monroe County for the 2014 Stop DWI Enforcement Program with approval to amend 2014 budget to support addition and appropriation of associated funding. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Mark, would you like to?
We actually got more than what we
Yes,
were supposed
good
to get,
news.
so.
That's why I wanted you to talk about it.
Other than a little bit of more paperwork, what this will do is it'll allow us to, I talked about our enforcement initiatives, and specifically, we're going to do some sobriety checkpoints for this funding.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel.
Aye.
Councilmember Novros.
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio. Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Jim?
Next item is to approve the amended budget for the Corwin Road Bridge project to reflect authorized actual spending and reimbursements associated with this project. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Is this a change order?
No, it really isn't. What it does is it makes budget amendments to reflect the actual spending, but maybe Suzanne would like to talk about that a little bit. 'Cause-
Actually, several months ago, entered into contracts with the engineering firm and with the contractor for this project. Just at the time, I didn't fully amend the budget for the project because it wasn't certain what percentage of funding we were going to get from the federal, from the state, and what the town's portion was going to be. But we got that all straightened out, and I just wanted to make sure that the budget reflected that.
And
We're
as,
getting 80% back in federal funds, 15% in state, and 5% is the town's share.
How
This
much
was
more is
reviewed-
there to do with this? I mean, this has been going on for years. The Corwin, the bridge.
I believe the project is,
project
It's
was
done.
completed last
yeah.
fall.
Yeah.
They had a nice grand opening ceremony in the neighborhood.
But you wanted to see a refinishing of the top rail? and
Well,
stuff like
that's the historic portion of it, and we don't have,
That has
we
nothing to
haven't
do
been
with
able to generate funding for that. The priority, of course, was the structural soundness of the bridge. And hopefully, with the work that was done, it will last another 90 years.
Okay.
But this is a bit of bookkeeping, again, discussed at length at FAST.
right, so it's not offering any more in a contract. In fact, as it stands, we did not even spend all the funds, so. But of course, we'll only get reimbursed for what we did spend.
Right, right. You note the Mark Selliade that picked up some of the design work
Right.
that we hadn't necessarily anticipated. That's state funding, so that's a good thing. It's good. Paying when, the structure of a project like this, paying 5% of the overall project, is really the only thing that made it manageable for us. We'd have had to issue debt otherwise, and that's obviously something we don't want to do. So this is a good arrangement, and we appreciate the support from state and federal funding. We have a motion and a second. Anything further? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel.
Aye.
Councilmember Novros.
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Chris?
Bill, another item discussed at FAST is to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with FiberTech Networks to install and support a fiber optic line between Town Hall and the Operations Center, and the installation of a dedicated internet service to the Brighton Police Department. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney for the town.
Second.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel.
Aye.
Councilmember Novros.
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio. Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Matters of the supervisor. First, the receiving and filing the expense report for January 2014. Can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second?
And of course, as always, Suzanne will deliver a fuller report
In April for
in
the
April
first
for the
quarter.
first quarter. Motion and a second, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Couple things. We've talked about a couple of bicentennial activities, and I want to give the community an update. This past Sunday, we had just a wonderful event, our first major bicentennial event celebrating Black history and culture in the town of Brighton. February, of course, is Black History Month, and the title of this event, Struggle Toward Freedom, was intended to convey the message that there's been a lot of work done and some work to come. But we learned about Brighton's role in the Underground Railroad, specifically the Warrant House. We also had a marvelous opportunity to hear Dr. David Anderson, one of the members of the Rochester Storytellers League that was profiled in Sunday's Democrat and Chronicle. He takes the role, and like any great actor, he is in role telling a story, and everybody that saw it was just so impressed. As you know, every year on Dr. Martin Luther King Day, Dr. Anderson is in our library. As we've said in the past, our library is open on Dr. King's birthday to give people an opportunity to hear stories about the African American experience from Dr. Anderson, and to share Dr. King's love of learning. So he has been really an inspiration to a lot of people over the years. But it was a wonderful event with a great turnout, and I want to thank everybody that was a part of that. Coming up, we have a couple of very big events. Of course, the reenactment, April 5th, of our first town board meeting. That was held in Orange Stone's Tavern, and 200 years later, it will be in the same place, now known as the Stone Tolan House. Tickets will be available as of March 1st, and we encourage you to get the tickets early. They will be $12 for adults, $6 for children. They will include a plowman's lunch, which will be served at the Baptist Temple, and then you'll be taken across the street. The tickets are going to be very limited, and you hear people say that and you laugh. Well, tickets really are, unfortunately, going to be very limited to this because of the size of the Stone Tolan House. We'll be doing multiple reenactments that day, but please get your tickets early. On June 1st, the Brighton Community Picnic, which is really, is probably going to be the biggest event in terms of people of the event of our whole bicentennial year. Our newest restaurant in town, Tom Wall's, will be there with literally a mobile restaurant, but we encourage people to bring their own food as well. I believe we will have kosher food available. Judy Schwartz, who is a member of the committee and very much involved in organizing that event, is nodding yes. So this is, as we always try to be, as inclusive an event as we can make it. June 1st, Buckland Park, the Kiwanis is involved, Brighton Neighbors is involved. As the reenactment is, we're working with groups in partnership. For the picnic, the town and the Brighton 200 Bicentennial Committee is working in partnership with Brighton Neighbors United. The reenactment on April 5th is a partnership between the town, Historic Brighton, and the Landmark Society of Western New York, which owns the Stone Tolan House. We'll also have a bus tour of some of Brighton's historic landmarks. That also is a partnership of the town and Historic Brighton. On May 3rd, town historian Mary Jo Lanfear and Historic Brighton and Bicentennial Committee member Arlene Vanderlyn will be narrating those tours. Those will be a lot of fun, and we have other events coming up throughout the year. We also have a book, a coffee table book that we are working with Messenger Post Publications on. Order forms are out in our lobby. We had our scanning events, and people from the community brought in photos to be scanned. The town historian opened up her vault and got a lot of photos scanned that weren't already scanned in. So that book is going to be a great memento of the year. The book is $29.95 plus shipping and handling. And again, forms for the purchase are out in our lobby.
Bill, where do we get the tickets for the Stowe and Tonal?
That's a very good question, and you know, I don't have the ticket information in front of me. I'm
Okay.
sorry. But
Check the website.
yeah,
We'll
the
have more information.
www.brighton200.org has information on tickets, information on all of the year's events, and a lot of great information about Brighton's history. And I would also encourage you to go to and follow the Brighton 200 Facebook page. Nelson LePatin from our Bicentennial Committee has been updating both of those. A lot of great photos right there. So we've already talked about the open house for the Monroe Avenue project this Monday. I want to talk briefly about the Association of Towns annual meeting. I serve on the Resolutions Committee. I've been asked to serve on that committee of the State Association of Towns. We review and report to all of the towns in the state of New York on pending legislation that may affect municipalities. And a couple things I wanted to talk about that were hot topics when the Resolutions Committee met and reported at the annual meeting this year. One broadly is state mandates. You hear mandates a lot. What does that mean? Well, a couple of specifics. The STAR program, great program. It gives all of us who own homes a rebate on our taxes, and for income eligible people, seniors, an even greater rebate. Now, when the STAR program was first adopted, local municipalities got funding because, as any of you, maybe you've had questions yourself about your STAR or maybe a relative's STAR application, and probably where you've gone for help has been our town assessor. I watch the steady flow of people into her office every day, people asking questions, coming out. Elaine does a great job of addressing some pretty complicated questions some of the time. But unlike when that law was first passed and there was funding provided for municipalities, over time that funding has been eliminated. So all of that service is now done helping all of the members of the community make sure they're eligible. We get no support for doing that. It's a great program, again, but it's a mandated program. It's a state-run program. The state rules can be complicated. Our assessor has to take training to get up on that, and it takes a lot of her time that she might otherwise be providing other services to our taxpayers. No support. That's an example of a state mandate. And we certainly believe at the Association of Towns, and I certainly believe as the guy responsible for the town of Brighton budget and for your taxes, that if the state is going to put a program on like that, no matter how helpful it is to us, and this is, there ought to be a mechanism for making sure we get the financial support. We're administering, in large part, that program for the state. And I think it's time funding be restored for that. Tax reform, another mandate. We mentioned earlier condominium. People think about condominiums and they think about maybe big high-rises or whatever. But condominiums come in all shapes and sizes. Condominiums are really just a legal form of ownership. People ask me, what's the difference between a townhouse and a condominium, for example? And a townhouse is a physical style of construction, but a condominium is a form of legal ownership. And under some, again, state laws that help large real estate interests in New York City, but also condominiums throughout the state. Condominiums are effectively taxed at a much lower rate than other real property in New York. That's mandated by the state of New York under the real property tax law. And everybody that does not live in a condominium has to pay up, has to make up that difference. That is increasingly a problem. It's certainly an issue here in Brighton. It's an issue in other communities. There is no rational reason that condominiums should be taxed differently than a building across the street that may look the same but isn't structured as a condominium. Those are the kind of state mandates, and there are others, I won't go into them all, but those are the kind of mandates that we addressed, and we made recommendations to the state legislature at this resolutions meeting of the Association of Towns. One of the many, I believe, important functions that the association provides for Brighton and for other towns. I want to mention one other piece of legislation, not a mandate, just something that, you know, I think, I'm certainly hopeful that the legislature will take action on this year. It's sort of a loophole in the sex offenders reporting laws. Apparently it's come to the attention in some other parts of the state that sometimes people who are registered as sex offenders, and they may be registered at one domicile, but they may also live for a significant part of the year or visit for a significant part of the year at another location, maybe a parent's house, maybe a vacation home, something of the sort. There's legislation pending that would require those offenders to register at that secondary location, any multiple location where they spend enough time to really, you know, have sort of a second domicile. Obviously, that's important. People, you know, in one case, a predator 20 years ago now returns to that person's parents' house back in the same community where they committed the crimes that they were jailed for and identified as a sex offender. And obviously the people of that community who weren't notified because he wasn't living there but spent a couple months out of the summer with his parents who still did live there, those folks and all of us deserve to know if there's someone living in our community for a protracted period of time. So I'm hopeful that the state legislature will make that change. That's an important part of what the Association of Towns does, and I'm pleased that they asked me to serve on that committee, and we'll continue to report back on important legislation to the community. That's all I have. Matters of the attorney to the town.
I just have a couple matters this evening. Supervisor, just sort of jumping on the bandwagon about the New York State Association of Towns. First, my thanks to the town board for allowing me and enabling me to attend the Association of Towns annual meeting and training session in New York City last week. It was very valuable. I went to a number of seminars over a 2-day period of time and found them very helpful, opened my eyes on a couple new issues, one that I've already addressed briefly with the commissioner and will be taking up if we believe it may be of use, and that is fairly recent amendment to General Municipal Law 103, which would allow a town in certain situations to award contracts based not just on the lowest responsible bidder, but also best value, so that we can better the value of the services and goods that we purchase as a town. I think that might be useful, and we're going to look into that and how we can put that into effect. Also attended a session about the STAR exemption, actually, and learned that, as you may recall, last year the state required everyone who was receiving Basic STAR to re-register, and the deadline for that re-registration through the town was December 31st. Well, New York State Tax was at the New York State Association of Towns meeting and announced that they are actually still accepting re-registrations even though that December 31st date has passed. What you need to do is go on to the New York State Department of Taxation website. If you Google New York State Tax STAR registration, up will pop a site and you can register online or get a phone number that you can call and give them your information to register, so you don't miss out on what averages out to be about a $700 tax savings. So that was good and new information as well. So thank you for letting me attend that. The other matter I just wanted to mention was we were talking about anniversary celebrations for the town. There's also an anniversary celebration that is going on this weekend over at Brighton High School, the 25th anniversary of the Festival of Ideas, which is sponsored by the Brighton School District, and I'm looking forward to presenting as a workshop leader, as I have for many years, along with Investigator Tim Karch, who leads a workshop, and Deputy Town Clerk Dave Marcus, who will also be working over there and helping the kids learn something new. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Ken, did this, where the state is saying that they were going to look at best value versus lowest bid, has that passed, or is that something?
It's on the books, it's law. In order to put it into effect in an individual municipality, we would need to pass local enabling legislation, a local law, to allow us to use best value as an option. And then we'd have to consider which projects or goods that would make the most sense to use, and we would need to include those criteria in our bid documents or request for proposal.
And best value really contemplates, operating expenses, maintenance expenses over time. It may be that a less expensive item comes bundled with a more expensive maintenance contract, for example, or that we can reasonably foresee that it's operating, it's less fuel efficient, for example. So best value, I think, makes a lot of sense. It is an opportunity to be a little more flexible and save the town some money, and in some cases, maybe be a little bit greener as well if part of the difference in operating cost is fuel efficiency.
Right. We need to have some quantifiable basis on which we determine best value, some objective criteria which we would need to include in the spec. But certainly we can look at all of those factors and some others as well, including experience of a vendor.
Yep.
So.
Good. Thanks. Matters of the town clerk.
Just one brief reminder, second installment of the town and county combined tax bills due Friday.
Thank you. Matters of the board.
Nothing for me, Bill.
I just want to mention again, thank you to Mark for putting up the slide about collecting pharmaceuticals. That morning on April 26th is the opening of baseball parade, and then
Brighton baseball.
Brighton baseball, Little League, and in the afternoon from 12 to 4 is when we're going to have the DEA/Brighton collection for pharmaceuticals. So that's April 26th. For Clean Sweep the following week on the 3rd of May, we are now have registration online. You go to the Recreation Department, go www.townofbrighton.org, and then go to the recreation site. And we are there where they're having where you can register for all of their courses. But the first thing you will see in yellow is Clean Sweep, and you can register online. This will enable us to have a better count beforehand on how many T-shirts we will need and how much food we will have to order. So and what you do is you get registered, and you can print out the registration, bring it with you. You still have to come to Town Hall if you want to get a T-shirt and a grabber and gloves. But we at least have the information beforehand, and also they'll be on there what site you want to go to. So we will know beforehand what sites are still available when people come into Town Hall. And then the following weekend after that, which is the 10th of May, is the electronics and the shredding from 9 to 12 at the Highway Department parking lot.
And thanks for putting all of those events together, Louise.
And anybody who would like to volunteer for any of the events, give me a call. I'm on the site, and my phone number's on the site as well.
You want to share it with us?
My phone number,
Yeah.
244-3533.
Thanks. Okay, thank you to our cable TV crew for again broadcasting us digitally and also on our streaming internet. We appreciate it, and we appreciate the opportunity to come into your homes and let people who can't be here for the meeting watch us. With that,
Sorry, I meant to think this before. Do we have a schedule for I know Steve and the crew are recording on Sunday. Is that going to be on the 12? On a particular,
the event that we just held?
yeah, the African American history.
Yes,
event.
they will. I believe they're doing, finishing their editing, and the telecast of that great event will be running. And if you weren't able to be there, I really do encourage you to watch it when it's on our cable access channel. The students from Garth Fagan's youth dance ensemble really were extraordinary. They are very talented. They gave a great performance. It really capped off the afternoon, and you know, they just from the moment they danced down the aisles and up onto the stage, and then on their way out, they were in character, they were professional, and there are some kids in that group that I think, whatever they do, whether it's in dance or whether their talents take them somewhere else, these are kids that have learned a lot through dance, and it was just a joy to see them. So do tune in and watch that if you couldn't see it live. Thanks for that reminder, Dan. Can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the appointment of a particular person?
So moved.
Second?
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Thank you, everybody, for attending or watching. Have a good evening, and we'll see you at our next town board meeting, March 12th, 2014, at 7 p.m. Have a good evening.